The day everything changed, a story of power, respect, and redemption. Gabriel Dawson sat at his kitchen table, the kind of table that had seen more overdue bills than family breakfasts. And let me tell you, this morning wasn't shaping up to be any better. The sunlight crawled reluctantly through the blinds, casting long shadows over a stack of paperwork that looked less like financial documents and more like a monument to his growing frustration. At 42 years old, Gabriel was supposed to be one of those men who had made it. You know the type. The kind who walks into a room and people sit up a little straighter, not because they want to, but because they feel they have to. But life? Well, life doesn't give a damn about your plans, your titles, or how hard you've worked. It's got this nasty habit of tossing bricks at your head just when you think you've got everything figured out. Gabriel stared at the papers in front of him. Each one taunted him with its fine print, its bureaucracy, and its endless red tape. It wasn't that he couldn't understand them. Hell, he could probably recite every line of a corporate merger contract in his sleep. But today, the weight of it all felt heavier, more personal. Maybe it was the stress of running a multi-billion-dollar financial empire. Maybe it was that old nagging thought, the one that whispered no matter how high you climbed, the world would always find a way to remind you exactly where you came from. And where was that, you ask? Southside Chicago, a place where dreams either grew teeth or got eaten alive. Gabriel wasn't born with a silver spoon. Hell, there wasn't even a plastic one. His father had worked double shifts at the Sheffield steel plant until the day he was fired for daring to speak up about unsafe working conditions. You gotta be 10 times better than them, his father used to say. Not twice, 10 times. Because they'll never let you forget who you are. Gabriel had carved those words into his soul. He'd clawed his way out of the South Side, brick by bloody brick, through scholarships, through internships, through endless late nights and thankless jobs. He built himself into a man nobody could ignore. And yet, there he was, 20 years later, staring at a pile of papers that reminded him no matter how far he ran, he could never quite leave that past behind. But Gabriel wasn't about to let it crush him. Not today. Because today, Gabriel had a plan. He had this habit, see, every now and then, when the suits in boardrooms started to feel a little too comfortable, he liked to go undercover. No private jet, no tailored Armani, no chauffeur waiting by the curb. Just Gabriel in an old leather jacket and jeans that had seen better days, wandering into one of his own bank branches to see how things really worked when nobody knew who he was. Today, he chose one of the downtown branches of Dominion First Bank. On the surface, it was polished, glass walls, marble floors, brushed steel counters. But he'd heard things. Whispers, complaints, stories about long wait times, dismissive staff, and in more than one case, outright discrimination. Gabriel couldn't ignore that. Not when he'd spent his whole life fighting to build something better. He grabbed his wallet, keys, and an old baseball cap. Then he headed out the door. He wasn't expecting much. Maybe a few raised eyebrows. Some impatience from the staff. But what he walked into was something else entirely. When Gabriel stepped into the branch, the air hit him like a wall. You know that feeling? The one where you walk into a room and suddenly you don't exist? It was like that. The space was sleek and modern, all glass and chrome, but it felt colder than a morgue. A few customers sat in uncomfortable chairs, filling out forms or scrolling their phones. The staff, mostly young and mostly white, barely glanced up when he entered. Gabriel made his way to the teller counter, keeping his head low. He wasn't there to cause a scene. Not yet. The teller was a man in his mid-30s with slicked back hair and the smug look of someone who thought their best days were behind them, but still tried to act like they were ahead. His name tag read Travis. "Can I help you?" Travis asked, his tone dripping with the kind of forced politeness that was anything but polite. "I'd like to withdraw $5,000 from my account," Gabriel said calmly. Travis gave him a slow once-over, like he was trying to decide if Gabriel was a joke. "Do you have ID?" Gabriel handed over his driver's license and bank card without a word. Travis took them with deliberate slowness, like he was handling something unclean. "What's the account number?" Travis asked, already skeptical. Gabriel gave it to him. Travis typed it in with the urgency of a man filing his taxes 2 days late. After what felt like forever, he frowned. "Yeah, we can't do that," Travis said, sliding the cards back like Gabriel had asked to borrow his car instead of his own damn money. "Excuse me?" Gabriel asked, though he already knew where this was going. We don't keep that kind of cash on hand, Travis shrugged. You'd need to put in a request. Could take a few days. Gabriel kept his voice level. That's not how it works. I know exactly how it works. Travis gave a tight smirk. There are certain things we have to verify. Such as, Gabriel asked, his tone still polite, but edging toward dangerous. Travis leaned in, lowering his voice like they were sharing a secret. You know, gotta make sure the funds are legitimate. And there it was. That word. Legitimate. It hit Gabriel like a sucker punch. He'd spent his entire life proving he was legitimate, breaking every barrier, swallowing every indignity. And here he was again, being treated like a criminal for daring to exist. He took a deep breath, steadying himself. Check again, he said. Travis sighed, clearly annoyed. Sir, even if we had the cash, which we don't, you'd need to provide additional documentation. We have policies. Gabriel's jaw clenched. Policies, he repeated. You mean you need to make sure people like me aren't gaming the system? Travis didn't answer, but the smirk said enough. Gabriel leaned in, his voice dropping to a lethal calm. You want to finish that sentence? Travis hesitated, just for a second, but then he doubled down. Look, some folks don't fit the profile. There it was again. The profile. The room had gone quiet. Even the customers filling out forms had stopped, their attention slowly turning toward the unfolding scene. Gabriel exhaled slowly. Then he smiled. Okay, he said. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to process my withdrawal, or I'm going to make a call. Travis leaned back in his chair. Call whoever you want, he sneered. Without documentation, you're not getting a dime. Gabriel blinked. Then he laughed. A sharp, humorless sound that made Travis shift in his seat. All right, Gabriel said. Let's see how far this goes. He pulled out his phone, his fingers flying over the screen. Travis watched him with growing unease. You really calling someone? Travis asked. Oh, I'm calling, Gabriel replied. And no, it's not the Pope. A few customers chuckled. Others looked confused. But Gabriel wasn't talking to them. He was talking to the person on the other end of the line. Get me Dominic Rivers, Gabriel said. Regional manager. That got Travis's attention. His face paled a little. Gabriel paced slowly as he spoke, his tone crisp and authoritative. People whispered to each other now, wondering who this man was. The call ended. Gabriel pocketed his phone and turned back to Travis. Check my account, he said. Again. This time, Travis's fingers trembled as he typed. His eyes flicked across the screen, then widened. Sir, he stammered. There's a note. Says to refer any large withdrawals to upper management. Gabriel smirked. Interesting. And yet, you didn't think to follow protocol. Travis didn't answer. He just looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him. That's what I thought, Gabriel said. The door to the bank opened then, and in walked Dominic Rivers, the regional manager himself. He scanned the room, his gaze landing on Gabriel. Mr. Dawson, he said, hurrying over. I didn't realize you were visiting today. Travis's mouth fell open. Gabriel turned to Dominic. Neither did I, but it seems we have a problem. Dominic's face paled. We'll take care of it immediately. Gabriel nodded. You will. But first, I'll take my $5,000. Dominic waved over another employee. Moments later, Gabriel had his cash. But he wasn't done. I'll need the employee handbook, Gabriel said. And the complaint logs for this branch. 6 months' worth. Dominic hesitated. Of course. Gabriel turned to the customers. I'm Gabriel Dawson, he said. And I don't just bank here. I own Dominion First. Gasps. Whispers. One man muttered. Well, I'll be damned. This isn't about money, Gabriel continued. It's about respect. It's about making sure no one is treated like I was treated today. Dominic returned with the binder and paperwork. Gabriel flipped through them without interest. This stops now, he said. Travis was fired on the spot. An audit was ordered. And Gabriel promised every customer that any complaints would be handled personally. As Gabriel left, he paused at the door. If I have to come back here, he said, there won't be warnings. And with that, he walked out, leaving behind a bank that would never forget the day Gabriel Dawson flipped the script.